What was your greatest accomplishment in life?
Well, that's a tie. Raising my children was the first greatest accomplishment. Uh, and I guess just I learned by being, well, I guess just being able, I had learned how to run a business like the post office. I learned the responsibility that went with it. I learned how to, as my husband says, I learned how to talk because I never did talk a whole lot um, when I was younger. You know, we'd go out on a date and I wouldn't, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't let him buy me anything to eat. But I learned once I got in the post office, you know, how to get along with people, to be able to, like I said, run the business of the post office, to make things balance, things like that,
What are you most proud of?
being a Christian.
I think that's it. Ask a couple more. When did you get your first car? Or when was it common to get your first car?
My first car, my own car. Well, the first car that I really, I guess, could claim was my husband's car, because when we got married, he had a car. So that was my first car. It became, when we married, it became my car too.
When was it common to get a car? Was it like 16?
Oh, no.
No?
No. Few people had cars when I was in high school, but it was a rarity. I mean, compared to what it is nowadays. I would say maybe most people back then didn't get one till they were 19 or 20 years old, maybe 21.
How did you deal with problems at the significant stages of your life? When you were 10, 20, 30, hit the age?
Well, let's start when I was young, and that would be, really I didn't know what really a problem was till I was a teenager. Maybe, you know, I was just like any other kid. You don't worry about where your food's gonna come from or anything like that. But I had started at, I thought were serious problems, and they were, in my middle teens, and I didn't handle them too good. So, but then as I got older, got married, I had my husband to help me with problems that came along, and that was a you know, kind of a sobering, relaxing feeling that it wasn't just my problem, it was our problem. But then mainly when I got older,
He'll have a lot to say about that.
when I'm saying older, I'm talking about in the 60s, I learned really to trust in the good Lord, that He would solve my problems for me, and turn them over to Him, and it would work out for the best way for me.
If you have like any stories that you would like to share, like feel free. We're trying to get a good look of what happened back then, like any.
Oh, let me think, a good story. Well, one story I remember as a teenager, I had a cousin that lived in Memphis, and which was his name was Troy, and his mother and my mother were sisters. And he would love to come over to Arkansas because, in Memphis, they lived on paved streets, and he liked arrowhead hunting, and he liked fishing, so he couldn't do that in Memphis, so he always, wanted to come to Arkansas. But one thing I remember, back, of course, when I grew up, the road, I lived in the city limits, but the road in front of our house was dirt. So that was, something different than what he lived with every day. But anyway, we went off of this road, dirt road, it's probably a good mile from where I live. And there was just bluffs on both sides of this dirt road, went straight up. Well, he got brought out there, he wanted to climb one. And so he climbed up as far as he could go, and he got, he couldn't find another grip hold to be able to pull himself on up further. But he also couldn't find a way to get down either. I don't know what happened, whether it broke off when he stepped on it and he was able to step up quicker. I don't remember, but he couldn't get down. And I just said, well, try this. It was too high for him to jump down. So he sent me all the way back home to get my daddy and his daddy and I think his brother was up with him on that trip, which was a full-grown man. I mean, there was a huge age difference. So they had to come back and guide him down and be able to help him, tell him where to step. Because now, we were just young teenagers, so, we wasn't, in other words, he wasn't experienced in this. He tried it anyway. And then the other thing, even about him, a highlight in my life was, which kids don't get to do nowadays, I would take a train, I would catch the train in Forest City and ride by myself to Memphis. Now to y'all, that doesn't seem very far, but back then, for me, and I mean, I was young, probably maybe 12. They would put me on this train there. It would stop in Forest City, and I would ride to Memphis. But then even better than that, Mama's sister's husband, Uncle Willie, worked for Frisco Railroad. And one year they asked me to go with them on their vacation. And they were going to see their oldest son. Now remember, he's quite a bit older than Troy. Troy was 1 year older than I was. I think I was long about 12 or 13. But this man, I'm saying he was in his early 30s, and he worked for the government. He was a weatherman, but he was stationed in Idaho. So they asked me to go, and that's one thing I'll always remember, because trains, you couldn't be there like going to Memphis. It took 2 days to get there. So we had to spend the night on the train, and you ate on the train, and they had dining cars. They had berth cars where they had the sleeping, kind of like a twin bed, a bunker bed, one on top of the other, and then you had your regular seat cars where you just sit up and watched out the windows. And I've always been an animal lover, and I remember so many big jackrabbits and antelopes and deers and whatever other kind of animal you can think of out on the prairie, going to Idaho. Then coming back was another experience we got. The train somehow got overcrowded. You hear about planes getting overcrowded and they kick people off? Well, that's what happened to us. They kicked us off the train. But then once they got the ones back on, they started letting them back on, and they let Troy and Aunt Frankie, Mama's sister, and myself back on the train. But Uncle Willie, her husband, was off. They didn't let him on the train. He had all the money. He had all the tickets. So we told him no. Finally, Aunt Frankie got them convinced to let him on. But they either had to let us off, so we'd be with him with the money and the tickets, or they had to let him on. And thank goodness they let him on, and we were able to carry on. But that was several hours delay right there. So it happened back years ago when you got bumped off of a train like they do planes today.
I think I have questions, but if like you want to share anything anymore,
A little bit, I will.
go ahead, it's fine.
Okay.
You should check the